Good morning. Welcome to the August 22nd Board of County Commissioners regular meeting. Before we get started, do we have any past county commissioners in the audience?
Oh, who could that be?
Good morning, Miss Anka. It's always so good to see you. She loves it when I do that. We are blessed with having Pastor Mark Lewis here this morning. Sir, if you would come up and pray over us, that would be wonderful.
Thank you. As we start our time of prayer this morning, I would like to read a passage from Lamentations chapter 3. But this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. The Lord is my portion, says my soul. Therefore I will hope in him. The Lord is good to those who wait for him, to the soul who seeks him. It is good that one should wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you that you are good. And God, we acknowledge that your mercies and your steadfast love are new every morning, like this morning. And Heavenly Father, we come before you and we ask that you would fill us with knowledge, wisdom, and insight. God, we thank you for our governing leaders. And Heavenly Father, we ask that you would pour on them your grace, your mercy, and your peace. We thank you for each one who leads us. And Heavenly Father, we pray that you would bless them with the knowledge of your steadfast love, your grace, your mercy, and your goodness. God, we thank you for your Son, Jesus, and it's in his name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. And you're from First Baptist Church in Merritt Island.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. We have a quorum. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Commissioner Still, will you lead us in the pledge?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That was really beautiful out there, wasn't it? Commissioners, I have 2 minutes that I need approval for. Can I have a motion?
So moved, Madam Chairperson.
Motion by Commissioner Still. Can I have a second? Second by Commissioner Tabaya. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. We're moving into resolutions and awards. Do I have Mr. Russ Carson here? Hi, sir. Come on forward. I'm going to read this, and then if you want to say a few things, you're welcome to. Whereas the Florida Water and Pollution Control Operators Association, organized in 1940, a nonprofit trade organization that promotes the sustainability of Florida's water utility industry to protect the health of Florida citizens and to preserve the state's water resources. Whereas this organization has recognized the importance of water industry, acts as a liaison between the Florida Department of Environmental Protection and industry personnel. Whereas the Water Pollution Control Operators Association recognizes that all who have played a significant part in operating and maintaining drinking water, wastewater, stormwater systems in Florida by celebrating Florida Water Professionals Month, which applauds their constant efforts to protect our health and environment 365 days a year through sunshine or a catastrophic storm. Water professionals are often the emergency responders during storms and other catastrophic events, working to ensure safe drinking water and safe disposal of wastewater for our communities. Commissioners, today I would like to do a resolution to declare the month of August 2023 as Florida Water Professionals Month. Can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Feltner, second by Commissioner Still. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Excuse me, on behalf of the 5,200 members of my association, as well as thousands of other water professionals, I would like to thank the Board of Commissioners for recognizing us with this proclamation. All too often, we're not really thought about a lot because more often than not, when we go to the sink to get water, it's there. When we take our shower, the wastewater goes on to the treatment system, the treatment plant, to the reclamation system. The stormwater is conveyed to the proper places. So more often than not, this happens. It's when it doesn't happen that people tend to think about us. And it's usually not maybe the most enduring thought pattern. So it's very gratifying to us to be recognized when things are going well. So again, I'd like to say thank you for support this year, the support you've showed us in the past, and the support I'm sure we'll continue to get in the future. We strive hard, we the professionals and you our leaders, to meet the demands, the challenges of our current residents, the hundreds of thousands of people that visit us every year, and the thousands of people that move here every year. It's going to be a huge challenge, but with your leadership and support and our efforts, we'll be able to meet it. Thank you so much.
Do we have Stephanie Palacios today? Did I say that correctly?
You did.
I practiced a few times. Ms. Stephanie is with the Second Harvest Food Bank of Central Florida. I'll read your resolution and then you'll be invited to speak. Whereas hunger and poverty are issues of vital concern in Florida, where 10.6% of people face hunger and do not know where their next meal will come from, and whereas Brevard County is committed to taking steps to raise awareness and combat hunger in every part of the community, and whereas Brevard County is committed to working with Second Harvest Food Bank of Central Florida, a member of the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks, in educating people about the role and importance of food banks in addressing hunger and raising awareness of the need to devote more resources and attention to hunger issues, and whereas the members of Second Harvest Food Bank of Central Florida have distributed more than 10 million meals to individuals in Brevard County in 2022, and whereas the members of Second Harvest Food Bank of Central Florida distribute more than 300,000 meals every single day throughout the 7-county service area in Central Florida through its network of food pantries, soup kitchens, shelters, and other community organizations, and whereas the month of September has been designated Hunger Action Month in order to bring attention to food insecurity in our communities and to enlist the public in the fight to end hunger by taking action, including volunteer shifts, social media shares, and donations to ensure nobody has to make an impossible choice between food and other necessities like medicine, utilities, and childcare. And whereas food banks across the country, including the members of the Second Harvest Food Bank of Central Florida, will host numerous events throughout the month of September to bring awareness and help end hunger in their local community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida does hereby recognize September 2023 as Hunger Action Month. And with that, Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Still. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you. Thank you all for recognizing September as Hunger Action Month in Brevard County. Those 10 million meals that we're distributing here in Brevard County with the help from Greg Hansen, our branch manager, we can't do that without support from the community and support from you all. We have 88 partner agencies in Brevard County that are embedded in the community who are serving neighbors who are facing hunger every single day. Brevard County taking the initiative to declare September Hunger Action Month is just one step in helping our neighbors here in Brevard County make sure that we are supporting them if they may need a hand up, and that we will continue to support them. Thank you so much for your help.
Okay, we're moving into consent agenda. Commissioners, did you have anything that you wanted to pull in here separately? All right, I do have 2 cards from Mr. Kirschenbaum. Are you here, sir? You're getting lost in the crowd.
Jack,
Oh,
She's
there you
calling
go. Are you for comments only if we approve it? Did you still want to come up? Okay, thank you, sir. All right, so Commissioners, I don't have any items to be pulled. Can I have a motion to approve consent?
so moved, Madam Chairperson.
Motion by Commissioner Steele, second by Commissioner Tobias. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. We're moving into item G1.
Good morning, Commissioners. G1 is a petition of vacate a public utility and drainage easement, 4550 Lime Street. Mr. Baggaley, it's in District 1, Cocoa. It's a petition for a portion of 7.50 wide public utility and drainage easement to allow for an existing single-family home to remain and to be removed as an encroachment. There's no issues.
Commissioners, this is in District 1, and this is a fairly easy one. Can I get a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Feltner,
Second.
second by Commissioner Still. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Item G2.
Good morning, Commissioners. Today, G2 is asking the Commission to adopt 3 resolutions: the annual solid waste disposal resolution, the solid waste collection resolution, and also the special rates and gate charges resolution. We're also requesting that the Board ratify, confirm, and certify the annual disposal, collection, recycling special assessment rolls to the Brevard County Tax Collector.
Thank you, Commissioners. We've already approved this one in a past meeting. Can I get a motion?
Motion, Madam Chair.
Motion by Commissioner Goodson,
Second.
second by Commissioner Still. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Item G3.
Good morning, Commissioners. Item G3 is a resolution for the Melbourne-Tillman Water Control District fees, and this resolution was approved unanimously by the Commissioners in attendance at the public hearing held within the district boundaries on August 10th.
Commissioners, what's your pleasure? Motion by Commissioner Tobias,
Second.
second by Commissioner Still. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. We're moving into item H1. County Manager, Mr. Kranis, do you want to open this?
Yes, ma'am. This is the Brevard Cultural Alliance Professional Services contract coming back from the last meeting for discussion and review.
Thank you, sir. Commissioners, I have 14 cards on this. Would you like to speak first, or would you like to hear the public comment cards first?
I want to go to the cards.
Okay, I have 1 vote for a card, and I have no other votes, so we can go with the cards. Do I have Miss Joan Emery? Miss Joan, are you here?
John.
Your spelling says Joan, in all fairness, just so, okay.
Yes, how long do I have to talk?
2 minutes, sir.
2 minutes.
Time's up.
Okay, all right.
If you would just state your name real quick.
My name is John Emery, John C. Emery. I've lived here since 1954. I remember A1A when it's 2 lanes and you could lie down and take a nap on it, and this crazy old coot named Wickham wanted to build a road out in West Melbourne. I graduated Sellead High School in 1968, Rollins College 1974, founded Preston Studios in 1976. For those of you who are not familiar with my work, if you've been to Holy Trinity Episcopal Church, you've seen my work across the front of the church. If you've been to the Henniger Center for the Arts, you've walked through my work in the front doors there. Savannah's Golf Club. It can go on to many parts. Preston Studios does stained glass. Not many people in Brevard County have had a countess from Denmark come stay with them. The reason the Countess from Denmark came to stay with me is because my work hangs in Palace Lederborg in Denmark, Castle Fowlis in Scotland. 2 years ago, we were down in Tortola installing my stained glass in a home in British Virgin Islands. You can see my work in Ames, Iowa, San Francisco, and Nova Scotia. My work is around. It was just published in January for the 15th time in Glass Art magazine, which goes to 40 countries worldwide. So my reputation in stained glass is noted. You can see my work in hundreds of homes in Brevard County, from Vieira down to the Cloisters. If you've been on Lansing Island, you've seen my work in the doors and the front doors of the Lansing Island Clubhouse. So that's who I am. To say that I have been offended by what I've been reading in the newspaper about the county's attitude towards the visual arts is to put it mildly. There are many aspects of this that bother me. I have 3 kids by 3 different women.
Thank you, sir. I'm sorry, time's up.
But I
Thank
married
you.
my partner.
Miss Teresa Grimson. And after Miss Teresa, I have Heather Elko. Hi, ma'am. If you'd state your name for the record.
Good morning. I'm Teresa Grimison. I'm President and CEO of the Community Foundation for Brevard. So thank you all, commissioners, for having me here to speak. You know, you may have seen a bumper sticker that we see around that says, "Earth without art is just a barren and meaningless place." And I know that you know of the genius Leonardo da Vinci, who best explained that art and science are separate but intertwining paths that lead to the same place. Here in Brevard County, we truly benefit from a healthy presence of math, science, technology, and related industries. To retain those businesses, and more importantly, the workforces and the families that empower them, we must continue to invest in the arts. As you consider Brevard Cultural Alliance's funding and contract for services for fiscal year 2024, please keep in mind that they are a singular flywheel organization for arts and culture here in our community and a crucial part of our vitality and continued economic growth. They contribute to our tourist industry, they bring arts education to our public schools, and they energize our communities and neighborhoods like nothing else. Investment in BCA contributes to a return of $123 million in annual spending and contributes to $65 million in Brevard's annual GDP. So I just urge you to continue to support BCA and these investments in our community. We must be able to compete with places like Austin, Houston, Denver that have vibrant and really engaging art scenes. I shudder to think that we could become a Beaumont, the fictional town in the movie Footloose, where they burned books and banned dancing. We want the joy. We need the arts. We need the creativity and the innovation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Heather Gecko, I am going to ask that we don't applaud or boo. The reason why, if somebody has a different opinion and you do that, it really takes their ability away to speak freely. So if you guys wouldn't mind that. I know you're for it, so it's all cool. But if we would not do that, that would be great. Ms. Heather?
Good morning, commissioners. Can y'all hear me okay? As one of the 450,000 registered voting heads in beds full-time, I'm here to tell you that I've been losing sleep since I learned of your sudden decision to cut the arts and culture grants. I've lost sleep out of fear because your decision is as brutal and unexpected as a sucker punch. In your ill-considered vote, you have broken our hearts and shaken our trust in you. They say you can catch more flies with honey than vinegar. However, in the past 8 years of observing the current county commission, minus you new commissioners, I haven't noticed that any catching of flies is possible. Subservience at this podium may get a nod or a smile from on high. More direct comment may catch a public verbal reprimand. As a Brevard voter for 42 years, I have never seen such unabashed exercise of power and disregard of citizens. To you new commissioners, I beg of you, do not continue on this path. Don't wield your power like a sword. Don't punish the earnest and diligent members of our community. But what would arts and culture be without poetry? So I thought I'd bring a poem to share with you. Every Who down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot, but the Grinch who lived just north of Whoville did not. Maybe the Grinch is not our commission, but rather some other elected official who enjoys hurting people he doesn't like. As he imagines our response to the axing of the arts and culture grants, he gloats. They're just waking up. I know what they'll do. The Who's down in Whoville will all cry, boo-hoo. But he can't do this nefarious work by himself, so he straps reindeer antlers on our commission and commands them to carry off the presents of the grants. Will there be a happy ending to this poem? Will the commission realize the terrible harm they have done and turn the sleigh around and bring back the arts and culture grants? This is what I am here for,
Thank
what
you,
I'm
ma'am.
asking you to do.
Thank you, ma'am. Miss Miriam? Marion Palicano, please know, I know you're for it. At the end, when everybody's done, you can clap away. Is that all right? Thank you. It has to be, or we're going to take breaks, because I really got to keep the meeting moving. Thank you, ma'am. Miss Marion Palicano?
Pelicano Ambrose.
That's pretty. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Marion Pelicano Ambrose, and I am president of Green Gables at Historic Riverview Village in Melbourne, Florida, and an active member of Museums of Brevard, the mob. I'd like to urge you to provide funding for the Brevard Cultural Alliance. BCA is an amazing organization that serves all of the county's cultural and arts community. Green Gables has been greatly supported, encouraged, and well-advised by BCA, and we believe that they should receive the recognition and funding they so greatly deserve. It was a great disappointment to learn that funding was cut for other entities such as Green Gables that protect and preserve the culture and heritage of our community, passing along our state's unique character, history, and traditions to our future generations. Cutting our much-needed funding was a heartbreaking blow to all of us who dedicate ourselves to the culture, history, and the arts here in Brevard County. We hope that you will reconsider and follow the wishes of the people, the taxpayers who voted to support culture and the arts with these vital grants. And I thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Miss Martha Pezzano? Hi, ma'am. How are you?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Martha Pissarro. I am the event coordinator for the Native Rhythms Festival that happens here every November, honoring Native American Heritage Month. I'm also the recording secretary for the Museums of Brevard. And I'm here today to ask you to consider the importance of the Brevard Cultural Alliance in doing the due diligence to see that our cultural events and organizations are supported throughout history. We have a long history of Brevard Cultural Alliance being a supporter of everything that our beautiful community has been able to bring forward to us. And I'd like now to give thanks to those people. We're going to talk a lot about the funding and the money and the impacts, but when it comes down to it, it is the people, the artists, the painters, the singers, the songwriters, the musicians, the conductors, the docents in all the museums, the students who attend our educational programs. but most of all, are people who arrive from many different areas to attend and take part in these events and the ongoing wonderful opportunities that are given to us through our cultural organizations headed by the Brevard Cultural Alliance. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Jason Brown, and then Ron Ecken. Hi, sir. How are you?
Doing well. Good morning. I'm Pastor Jason Brown of the Suntree Grace Brethren Church right here in our community. I have really no concern with the cultural arts. In fact, we serve a God who created all of us, a very creative God, and I believe we do need to be in support of the arts in our community. I did want to take just a moment, though, to encourage you and to thank you. You all have a very difficult job. None of us would want to trade places with you. I do understand the need. My comments were both for H1 and H2. I'll combine them both. We've had a dramatic increase in the need at our beaches, welcoming many tourists to the free state of Florida. I want to encourage you to hold on to your convictions with that. You will hear a great many views, some in opposition to your decisions. I want to ask that you remain true to your convictions. Some of the opposition will be related to money being sent to Space Coast Pride. But we all know what was demonstrated last year was not good for families. It was not good for local businesses in Melbourne. There was a reason why no one wants to do business anymore with Budweiser. And such event puts every local and small business in a very precarious position. I will be at Space Coast Pride in September, not to endorse its ideology, but to just simply be with people, to talk with people, and to share with people the good news of Christ. My heart hurts deeply for those struggling in life with gay or transgender belief systems. I know that it's not a happy one. But that being said, hang on to your convictions and remember the day Bud Light died, and continue to lead in whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is just and lovely.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Ron Ecken, and then I have Lynn Brazina.
Good morning. My name is Ron Ecker. I'm president of the Cape Canaveral Lighthouse Foundation. Since the lighthouse is on Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, we cannot charge admission. We have to depend on grants and donations to do our job. We had over 6,000 out-of-county visitors last year to the lighthouse. And this allowed us to qualify for a $25,000 grant. We were looking forward to spending half of this grant, 50%, for out-of-county advertising, because there's a lot of people in the Central Florida area that do not realize we have a lighthouse and would love to come visit us. Like any small nonprofit, we cannot justify spending over 10% of our money for advertising. This grant would have given us the willpower to spend more money. Our existence, like all the other culture nonprofits, is to provide incentives for people to either visit the area or extend their stay. 2 weeks ago, we celebrated National Lighthouse Day at the lighthouse, and we had 100 visitors come in for free. I talked to one family of 5 from Asheville, North Carolina, who extended their stay in Brevard County by a day so they could visit the lighthouse. And that's what we want. We want people to come and visit. Now, we certainly support giving money to the lifeguards and deploying more lifeguards, because without the lifeguards, we're not going to get the visitors either. But we think there's other ways that we can fund those lifeguards, and there has to be other funds. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Lynn Brazina, and then Mr. Justin Sircor. And him.
My name is Lynn Brzezina. I've been with Brevard Cultural Alliance for 28 years. I've supported arts and culture, the cultural organizations, the visual arts. It's such a fabric of Brevard County. Our history, our historical houses, our playhouses, everything. My main function there is the Brevard Cultural Alliance exhibit program, in which I exhibit artwork throughout the county. This year, our sales, 64% came from out-of-town purchasers. So it's showing that people that are coming into our community are enjoying the arts and what they see. But I'm sure they also go to our other venues. I didn't prepare any fancy speeches. I don't have one. This is the first time I've ever spoke here. But I'm really passionate about arts and culture in our community, and I hope that you continue to support it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Justin Sirco, and then Rachel Ruberte.
Good morning, Justin Sircone, President of Space Coast Pride. Speaking as representative of Space Coast Pride, I'd like to extend our appreciation to the Brevard Cultural Alliance and its cultural committee for their support in fostering our region's diverse cultural scene over the years and unanimously recommending our organization along with 25 others for the Cultural Grant Program. The sudden discontinuation of the Cultural Grants Program reverberates beyond our organization, impacting the very heart of art and culture in Brevard County. The decision resonates with us on a profound level. It's important to note that these grant guidelines were approved by very Board of County Commissioners who later revoked them. This raises questions about the reasons behind the abrupt change of course. Furthermore, it's hard to fathom that in a mere minutes, a unanimous vote stripped away funds that were designated by taxpayers for our community's cultural growth. In the same span of time, a long-standing program was dismantled, and the message sent was one that seemed to trivialize the significance of these beloved organizations. We stand united with 25 esteemed organizations and events, including cherished institutions like Cocoa Village Playhouse, Titusville Playhouse, Henniger Performing Arts Center, Maxwell C. King Center of the Performing Arts, Surfside Playhouse, Brevard Symphony Orchestra, and so many more. The absence of these cultural cornerstones from the grants recipients list signifies the loss not just for them, but for our entire community. Amidst this challenge, Space Coast Pride remains resolute in our commitment to celebrate and nurture culture in all its forms. Our Pride Fest stands as a testament to our resilience, uniting individuals from all walks of life. This setback will not discourage us. We are determined to continue contributing to the cultural fabric of our community.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Miss Rachel. You guys, we can't do it. I don't want anybody clapping or booing. It just promotes an ability for people to speak freely. So we're not going to do it. I'll call breaks. Miss Rachel Roberti, ma'am, if you'd state your name, I'd appreciate it.
Good morning. My name is Rachel Roberti, and I'm just here to encourage you in your initial thought to support life.
A little bit closer to the microphone, please.
To support life through the lifeguarding program. While I do agree that there is a need for arts, I don't agree that there is a need to support public displays of sexual preference in any means. We should be here in the support of protecting children. And if that's through lifeguarding, then that's what that is. So just encourage you to go with your initial decision on that.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Paul, I think it's Raub. It is? Good, because Amy Raub's right after you. Wonderful.
Pronounced the same.
Okay, good.
So, longtime Brevard resident, parent of 4 kids, all very heavily involved in the arts, both in the schools and in a number of the institutions and programs who are apparently losing grant money. Look at who's supporting you. Look at who's got your back. on this. Look who's happy about this. People who are afraid of beer cans, churches that should really have their tax-exempt status investigated, our esteemed governor. The bullies don't need your support. They're already running the state. And we're certainly in a moment right now in this state where, playing to the worst, the smallest, playing to people's fears is profitable and electable, or appointable as the case may be. These moments pass. Look forward to being in a newsreel like people burning Beatles records and so on, the blooper reel of history. This is not a good look. And that's me being cute, but it's not a good look because this is harmful. Yeah, these organizations have some other sources of funding, but they're now all scrambling to figure out how they're going to make up the shortfall. And in many of these cases, services that are being provided to lower-income children are going to be impacted. People who can't pay for those things are going to be impacted, as ever. Good job coming up with lifeguards as the cover story. I guess there wasn't something that had puppies in the name that we could pretend suddenly needed money. And if this funding suddenly comes back in October after Pride has passed, who's going to tell all those lifeguards that they're fired? I have a feeling the money will still exist. Do better. Thank you.
Miss Amy Raub, and then I have Kathy Ann Funk. Hi, ma'am. Your hair's pretty.
Thank you. Hi, my name's Amy Raub. And, all these people, all these amazing professional people out here trying to explain to you why the arts are important is like so ridiculous. I mean, do you feel good about this? Are you proud, really? Like, how dare you? How dare you? How dare you go after our gays and our drag queens? 9 months ago, I wasn't paying attention to the school board either. So call up the chair and ask him how that's going. Jason Steele, unelected power. We happen to be in the same nail salon in Satellite Beach not too long ago.
Ma'am, you have to direct it to me, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
This guy. You were getting a pedicure. I was getting a fill. And you were bragging how you were appointed by our dictator governor. Do you live in the district that you're serving, or do you live in Satellite Beach like me?
Ma'am, you're going to direct it at me.
Okay. Let's see. You were born, you served in the House the year I was born. I'm 41. Get out of here. Make some room for younger. But like millennials over here, you've got John who not doing a good job representing us, the millennials, at all.
Ma'am, you're going to direct it at me.
Tax the churches.
Miss Kathy Ann Funk, and then I have Mike LaFortune. Hi, ma'am.
Good morning. I moved to, my name's Kathy Ann Funk. I moved to Brevard County in 2015. I grew up in an area that had a lot of support of the arts in Spokane, Washington. And I have a background in that. My dad was a music director, and I saw how that affected many, many kids as music was a way that he reached many, many kids, and they came out as upstanding citizens. I would like to ask you to reconsider your support of the Brevard Cultural Alliance. I've given some thought as to what is the role of government in supporting culture, and I don't have, as a citizen, I don't have access to how many folks are brought in, but But I do have a sense that when we have community and we have a lot of free activities for community is helpful, community events is helpful, sorry, thank you. Community events are helpful for helping folks to belong. And it has been shown, I believe, that as people have connections, their health goes up, their abilities to go to get economic prosperity, that goes up. And I'm participant in some of that in some new activities that we're trying to do for the city of Cocoa through our church. So I would like to think that there is a role for government to support the cultural arts, and this is a good way. I know that cultural arts has some things that we think are outstanding or odd. They don't go with our views. And I've thought that before, as you have different monuments that are made that you just don't understand what is the art. So there are some things, there's a breadth of things, but to me that's part of what we are as a country. We're free. We're free to express ourselves and to have those conversations. Yet we have to think about what do we fund and what do we not fund. And perhaps some rules would be helpful as to what we want to do or not. But to simply take all of the arts and say we're not going to have a role in funding those, to me is sad. So that's my first point. My second point is that the abruptness of it makes it very difficult for organizations to continue. So if we have a financial issue, it would be much better to phase it out and say we need to be addressing that, but give organizations a chance to try to find some other funding or to develop tickets or whatever else they need to make up the funding. The last thing is, I know that we want to support the lifeguards. I'm not sure that we have the ability to hire all the lifeguards that we have, so it might not work. And certainly that is a good cause, but I don't think it needs to come at the expense of the cultural arts. So I ask you to please reconsider.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Mike LaFortune, and then Don Matheson.
Good morning, Mike LaFortune. Good to see you all. Look, first of all, I'll start as a business person who appreciates living in a county with a low tax and limited government. Very pro-private sector, so that's the ground rules for what I'm going to do in the next 2 minutes here. Having said that, last time I was before you, I talked about how art's changed lives, how it's changed the arc of my family's lives, how organizations in this room have made myself and my son the people that we are today. My son today serving up in Leon County, volunteering with the food bank. And thinks back to that Hunger Month comment earlier. Arts drives tourism and outside investment. I traveled in the county last week to go see a show up at Titusville Playhouse. I spent money in the local restaurants. I bought gas. Appreciate what the arts organizations do for vibrancy there. But the arts is the private sector. And this BCA contract is an example of public-private partnership. There's a saying that I learned from a colleague and friend of mine who's down in Palm Bay, an investment advisor, where capital flows where it's treated well. And if you look around the room and the arts organizations who are represented here, they know the value of a dollar. They know how to spend that dollar wisely and in service of their mission. BCA's mission is to take those activities and compound them for the county so that the Space Coast is a destination, not just Satellite Beach where I live, or Palm Bay or Titusville where some of you live, but the entire county has the ability to achieve our strategic objectives, including driving tourism, getting the folks who are there. Now, some of you served in state government. I've met with some of you at the Capitol. There are programs at the state level that are very efficient in utilizing small amounts of government revenue to apply for a larger objective in service of the state and here the county. BCA's contract is transparent, it's accountable, and it services the entire county in support of these arts organizations and using limited tax revenues to achieve our strategic objectives in tourism, as well as vibrancy for the people who live here, for the businesses who are considering moving here, and the families as well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Don Matheson. And then Miss Martha Matheson, you'll be next.
Hi, Dawn Matheson, Palm Bay, Florida. Born here, raised here when there were more cows than people. I actually, first of all, I find this kind of par for the course, but this is my kids don't want to stay here, and they're just laughing about this. They're like, yep, this is just totally typical, and they don't want to stay here. None of my nephews want to stay here. And I actually did some research on Google Scholar last night, and there have been some really interesting studies about how the arts and arts investment affect real estate values. And so taking this away it's like, I don't want to pay for schools, but I don't want to be around dumb people either. You know, I don't want to go down to a place where everybody is ignorant. I want to live in a society where there's some public art and, you know, there's a nice museum, because Vieira's out in the middle of a swamp. I mean, that was swamp when I grew up. And, you know, what is going to keep people here? To me, it's like having museums. You guys have already lost the art museum. And when I was a kid, I had to go and be at that art museum so many times in its development, and you guys just threw that all away. And now, you know, you're talking about getting rid of this, and they found it hilarious that you said you were going to use lifeguard money. You know, you're putting this into lifeguards. Like, that's completely transparent. I mean, no one believes that is a justifiable reason to just take all the money away. So I think that this is a poor decision on your part in county investment, and the youth are, you know, no one in this room is
Ma'am,
looking
you have to
in their
address the
20s.
front. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I'm just looking at the average age in here and
Thank you, ma'am.
telling you what they're saying.
Miss Martha Matheson. And after that, I have Anthony Yance.
Hi, I'm Martha Matheson from Palm Bay, Florida. That's my daughter. And I did drag her to the art museum over and over and over. I was one of the founding members, and I have been in mourning ever since y'all did not support the art museum. 40 years ago, we could support the art museum when half the people were here. Half the people, and we could afford an art museum. And that museum wasn't costing any more than it did 40 years ago, but y'all would not support it. And I'm just crushed about that. I've been an art teacher for years and years and years, and I've taught in elementary school, and I taught art, and that was not hard. I had to work to get art added to the elementary school. But I was already teaching because my principal recognized the importance of art. And I know how many children love art, and that's the only thing they look forward to when they come to school. And I just feel, and I know the parents, and they are looking for their children to have joy in their life. The arts add joy to our life and make our life worth living. So please provide money for the joy in our community, because I think you're not going to get a lot of people to move here if you keep moving in this direction. And please support the Brevard Cultural Alliance. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Anthony Yance, and then Miss Sandra Sullivan.
Good morning, board. I didn't plan on coming here today, but I did. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but you guys have launched a direct assault on our arts program in the name of keeping people safe at the beach, which you've set the precedent that making a dollar is more important than making sure our kids here are well educated in the arts and representing the way they feel. This is asinine. It really is. In the face of keeping people safe at the beach, you're going to destroy people's opportunities for arts programs here. In no realm does that make any sense. I hope you realize that. But if you don't, and you're being controlled by something else, just say it out loud. That's it. Just say what your true intentions are. It's not hard to speak your mind. Puppeteers. That's all I'm seeing. And it's really pathetic.
Miss Sandra?
Good morning, Sandra Sullivan. So I would like to respectfully request the funding of Brevard Cultural Alliance. I would also like to say that in the last meeting, I was profoundly disappointed because there has been a lot of lack of transparency by this Brevard Commission and on this issue. If your intentions were to make a decision on canceling the Brevard cultural grants, then the agenda item should have been stated as such. Then the people would have had a chance to weigh in and petition our government on what they feel is desired for Brevard. I'd also like to say that given the politics in Brevard, you can look at your TDC and you can see, even though we are the very second fastest growing county, I think, in the nation, our TDC numbers were down in the last quarter. The hotels are down from the TDC report that I looked at, and significantly down. This is a fiscal decision that you're making. When companies look to come to Brevard, they look at what you have as a total picture. As people want to relocate for the many jobs that will be here in the space industry, they look at what you have for cultural and arts and things that their family can do. My daughter was taking orchestra here. This is also tied into her education, because my kids were introduced to the symphony here. You are killing so many important programs that we have in Brevard County. And so I'm gonna make a request of you. My request is that you do what that vote for the feasibility study was done in 2012, that you rescind the vote that you did in the last meeting, and at least open it up to a dialogue with the people. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We are done with the comment cards, so I'm going to close the public comment portion of the meeting. And the topic we're discussing today is the contract with Cultural Alliance Professional Services. Hi, ma'am. Good to have you here today. Just a quick note, I do want to say that 3 months ago we had this discussion about the cultural funds. I brought forth a packet to remove them at that time into capital to pay for the lifeguard. So this wasn't it's not. And Sandra, it's not. Go look 3 months ago at the meeting. I brought all the paperwork, and I said that I was going to bring it back after we had another commissioner. So these comments have been going for a while. But I do want to start this portion off. SCGTV, can we hit being equitable through the county? I mean, it's nice that you have paintings hung up, but I think that this probably would serve this agency better if they hooked up with a local city and start working with them for some funding for the things they do, because most of these things are kind of aggregated into a certain area. So I think that is something they probably need to work for. I'm okay with approving for another year, but not with an extra amount, the same as they did last year, and kind of put them on probation and see what they can do to kind of branch out a little bit more. I am in agreement with giving them an extra 60 days to find a new place to live. But that's kind of where I'm settled. Love to hear where you guys are, but I really want to put them on probation for a year and see what they come up with. And if we haven't branched out, it's probably going to be my vote at that time to move it off of our budget. So that's my thoughts. So I'm going to leave that there and let the commissioners speak, but I think I had brought fair warning last year about getting other types of funding moving out to the cities. I think even when I met with you, I said that was important to do. And so I think one of the questions we're going to get to is if you've ascertained other funding sources from cities to help support as well. Because at that time, last year, I even gave warning that this is probably something that was going to get moved. So Commissioner Steele, your light's on, sir.
Thank you very much. Wow. I think there's been a lot of misconception here today on what happened at the last meeting. And you in the back, if you're going to act up, I'm going to ask the sheriff to remove you. First of all, there's not one commissioner up here that has any prejudice against Space Coast Pride. You can laugh if you wish. Not funny. That was not the reason we took the vote that we took last week. There are wants and there are needs. A lot of people want the cultural grants. I, for one, would like to see the cultural grants also. I'm not giving up on cultural grants. But what we need is lifeguards. There were 400 people having to be pulled out of the ocean in the last 7 months and 14 deaths that completely were broadcast all over the United States. And when we had an opportunity to be able to vote on this issue, for the first time we were told that TDC monies could possibly be used for lifeguards, and we took that opportunity, and I do not regret that. I will be more than happy to talk to the families whose people have died. Tourism will be absolutely ruined if we do not make our beaches safe for our tourists and our residents. Now, going on to our cultural grants. I love Commissioner Pritchett. We have a difference of opinion in regards to this particular issue. I am here in major support of Brevard Cultural Alliance today. And at some point in time, I'm going to make a motion to approve it, but whether or not that goes anywhere is neither here nor there. But I can tell you this, nobody feels good about what happened last week other than me and the county commission and potentially the people of this wonderful county that we can protect people on the beach. So the one is yes, we'd love to have cultural grants. The need is we need lifeguards. We are in a flux right now with TDC funds. We have a major issue with a major lawsuit going on that can put a lot of these monies in major jeopardy. We don't really know where we are with these funds. But what we do know is that we need to protect our beaches and our people and our tourists coming in. So that was just my little saying on what we did last week. And I'm in complete support of Brevard Cultural Alliance today. So I'm going to be quiet at this point in time and let other commissioners speak.
Thank you, sir. Commissioners, I don't have any other lights. Commissioner Tobias and Commissioner Goodson, you got it. Commissioner Tobias. Do you want Commissioner Goodson? Okay, Commissioner Goodson.
Sure. All right, thank you, Madam Chair. I feel like the last vote I took was a disservice to Cultural Alliance. What interests me the most is, and not being upset at the chairman, we're going to revert this back to the cities, but yet the cities are constantly asking us for money. We're going to do lifeguards and pay for them for the city when we should do lifeguards for unincorporated areas. How much money would that save? You know, I don't know if you pay taxes. I don't like the idea of supporting lifeguards in cities. Okay? So all of that being said, whether you like one venue or another venue in this county, I regret my vote, but I will say this too. You know, there's never going to be a time we're all alike. There's never going to be a time that we go to Baptist churches together and we get rid of Catholic churches. So all that being said is I get confused sometimes on what you expect us to do up here, and I'm sorry for that because I'm not the smartest pumpkin on the boat, and I don't think anybody else is either here. So I will not agree to fund lifeguards. I would like to see the vote rescinded, and let's go back to the Cultural Alliance and talk about it furthermore or get better understanding, you know. And you don't have to clap for me because my wife doesn't do it at home, and I don't expect you to do it here, okay? So that being said, I'm not in agreement with using the tourist development money to fund lifeguards. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Tobias?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I, with your permission and with the okay of the chair of the BCA, I have a series of questions.
Good.
Thank you, Ms. Kathy. And I want to begin.
morning.
Good morning. I want to begin by thanking you for so quickly getting on board and coming to my office and taking the time to meet with me. I want to say that I support everyone who came here and gave a very emotional appeal. I think it was clearly effective. But what we are tasked with today is a contract for service that the BCA will be providing Brevard County. And the numbers down there, $212,160. So I'd like to go over the contract, not a motion, just simply the contract that we have before us. It's some of the stuff that we discussed, even though you sent an update, I believe, to all our offices yesterday. So there has been some change. So we can potentially get a value proposition for the contract that you're presenting us with. So that's merely what I will be going over today is the contract for service with the BCA and the commission. No motion, just numbers to see if we're getting the 212. Again, the grants were 2 weeks ago, and if Commissioner Goodson decides to bring that back, by all means, he's more than welcome. But today, I just want to focus in on the contract to be very clear.
Could I provide one brief note in regard to the contract?
I have the contract in front of me. The one that was provided, has there been some changes to it since?
No, I would just note that the contract is drawn up by county leadership and the Space Coast Office of Tourism. BCA doesn't generate the contract.
Okay. But there are services in the contract that you are providing.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Okay, so I've got to go over that, whether we drew it up or whether you drew it up. We're providing funds, we're getting services in. I want to discuss those services because those services weren't discussed today. So I think it's very important that we actually discuss the topic. And again, you were well prepared for this at our meeting. I think just for the benefit of the people in the audience as well as the rest of the commission. So again, to be clear, you're requesting $212,160. That is a 4% increase from last year. Is that correct?
Yes.
And according to what we discussed, you're proposing to do somewhere in the neighborhood of 10% less work. That 10% was what you described of your time for the cultural grants. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Great. So that's I'd like to go over the contract tangibles, the things that we can touch and measure and see how they relate to tourism, because this comes from tourism dollars. Feel free to answer any way you feel appropriate. We get 2 cultural summits in there. That's on page 3. Last year's summit was on October 6, 2022. And according to the documents that you provided us, it had, quote, 160 attendees from throughout the county. So my question is, how does that promote tourism?
Well, within the contract, it's specified that we provide a minimum of 2 workshop or skill building opportunities for the cultural community,
And you met them. I looked.
Okay.
Some were Zoom. I just chose the last one. And on page 2, scope of service, you said you will grow and promote tourism. That is under the scope of service. So my question is for the 2 cultural summits, you had 160 attendees who were from Brevard County. How does that, I don't know, how does that promote tourism?
In a specific way, the impacts of those workshops or the cultural summit toward promotion of tourism is minimal.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Okay. You also provide us a mid and end year report. My question is, what benefit does the Brevard County Board of County Commissioners get as far as tourism from the mid-year and end-year report?
Well, we do.
I got them. You met it. I'm just trying to find out, because this comes from tourism under the scope, growth and promotion of tourism. How does that report grow and promote tourism?
Well, the report itself doesn't.
That's perfect. Great. And then then I want to get to the intangibles. And we discussed the intangibles here, but they've been updated. I think it's very important that we go over there. The first one was the website. And you said, based on the information submitted to us yesterday, the BCA website was visited 31,000 times since last October. Does that sound about correct?
October 1, yeah, about 31,500.
Okay. And thankfully, you also traced where those visits came from. Do you recall how many of the 10 top cities, because you listed it out, how many of the 10 top cities, the people that visited your website were from Brevard County?
The 10, okay. So I did expand the numbers with some of the data provided yesterday.
Yep. How many, do you remember how many there were?
Top 20 of the top 20.
I just looked at the top 10.
Oh, the top 10, 7 were Brevard, and
Okay, so the top 10, 70% of the top 10 were from Brevard County.
the percentages and the number of cities aren't necessarily the same. Within the analytics, the percentage of visitation.
The top cities were overwhelmingly Brevard. Is that a fair assessment? 7 of 10? Yeah,
Yes.
these were the numbers that you provided us, just to be very clear. Okay. Second of all, and I didn't catch this, someone in my office caught this. I don't know if you've had it fixed. There are a couple links on your website to Brevard County websites. Are you aware that 2 of the 3 links just don't even work to Tourist Development Office and as well as Parks and Recreation?
My apologies. I apologize. We'll immediately address that.
Okay, thank you. I want to talk about Facebook because you said Facebook was something that helps promote tourism. And though it's not tangible, it's a service that you said you provide us with nonetheless. You said you have somewhere in the neighborhood of 8,200 followers on Facebook. I don't know if that's a big number or a large number, but after that, your report says, quote, predominantly based in Brevard County. Can you help explain to me how having followers based predominantly in Brevard County helps tourism?
Well, I would note that as far as our reach on Facebook, since October 1, that reach was 117,000. Within Facebook analytics, Facebook only, you can only access your top 10 cities in your analytics for Facebook. And so anything beyond that would obviously be quantifiable.
Understand, but according to your own stuff, it was predominantly Brevard County. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And I go further down there. You said you changed the way that you were doing advertising, and I think you had down there since the first half of this year, your reach, and you mentioned reach. Your reach in Facebook was down, your numbers, not mine, 75.1%. Does that sound accurate?
It does fluctuate from month to month, and actually the numbers that you may be accessing, we had a pretty large event at the zoo in May. So from May, where there was a high level of activity and engagement, reach, et cetera, to June, there was a dip, but that evens out over time.
Okay, so you expect it to increase more than 75% again when the zoo has another event? I don't know. I'm just going off what you presented us with, the 75.
It's hard to predict numbers into the future.
Okay, and I have down that your Instagram reach was down somewhere in the magnitude of 17% as well. Is that correct?
That may be also reflective of activity.
Okay. Also, again, it's not in the contract, but you mentioned it, and I think it's worth mentioning to the rest of the board as we make this determination whether or not the contract that you provide is actually going to help with tourism, because that's where the funds are coming from, your weekly newsletter. You said there were roughly 1,500 people who receive your newsletter. Does that sound about correct?
Yes, sir.
Great. You said, or the report said, I apologize, the report that you provided us with, said you have an open rate of between 28 and 31%, so somewhere between 420 and 460 people actually, I guess, read, or not read, but open, I mean, click it to go through. My question to you is, of that 420 to 460, do you happen to know how many of those are tourists or how many of those are Brevard County residents?
I do not.
Okay. And then you mentioned that there's a click-through rate where people actually interact with it. I guess they jump of somewhere between 2 and 3%. So in other words, somewhere between 30 and 45 people actually read it or take suggestions or whatever. So of those 30 or 45 people that you're interacting with or you're interacting, do you have any idea what percentage of those people are tourists?
I'm sorry, I do not.
Okay. So, and I appreciate it. Some of these may be difficult. I'm going to open this up. I'm just trying to find the nexus here for your $212,000 that you're asking for. When you reach with, I mean, we could just, let me put this in perspective real quickly here. Your website had 31,473 total visits. So I just asked the tourist TDO office how many, what they're looking at, and they had, I'm sorry, that was, yes, they had 4.3 million, okay? When I look at, so you're less than 1% there. Your Facebook reach was, you said 117,000. I'm looking at the TDO office had a Facebook reach of 23.49 million. So what is that, 200 times the amount of what you had? So my question is here, when looking at this from a contractual perspective, I understand $212,160. How do I justify not the good of culture? No one's arguing that culture is a good thing, but we have to look at the black and white contract of this. How do I justify that we're getting a return on our investment for tourism, not for culture, because that's different, right? For tourism.
Excuse me, there's not going to be any talking out there, all right? This is direct conversation. I'll clear the room. Thank you. Go ahead.
I'm just trying to put a value on every Facebook.
Yes.
I don't know the analytics, how much a Facebook reach is worth, how much an Instagram post is worth. Have you done that where I can feel comfortable saying that the $212,160 is justifiable? Because with these numbers where you have as few as 30 to 45 people that actually interact with I don't know that we're getting $212,000 worth of value for tourism, because that's where it comes from and that's in the scope of service. Can you justify that so I can add up to see if we actually do reach that $212,000?
Well, one thing I would say and suggest, should we be fortunate enough to be funded for the coming year, is we would most certainly work with Space Coast Office of Tourism to improve our metrics. It was suggested in the materials that were provided via the Space Coast Office of Tourism that of funding that we might receive for fiscal '24, that a minimum of 10% of that funding be earmarked for out-of-county drive market paid ads on social media to further our reach and improve impacts on tourism.
Yeah, and I'm with you here, but your reach is, again, 1/200th of what their reach is. Less than that, by your own accord. I'm just trying to understand. The chair was very clear last year where her words were probation to find out if you actually, and I understand sometimes the cities get stingy. It happens all the time. And I don't blame if you heard no's. My question is this, and I think I know the answer to this. How many, even after hearing what she said a year ago, how many cities in Brevard County did you put in a request to even do a public comment that you would like buy-in? How many staff members from cities did you meet with? How many city council members did you meet with over the course of the last year and say, hey, we need some buy-in? Not your results where you didn't get anything, and I understand. My question is how many asks did you make over the course of the last 12 months?
I do not have a satisfactory answer for you.
I mean, there's a number, right? You're the head of it. Did you ask 10?
We did not.
Did you ask 5?
No, sir.
Did you ask 1?
No, but we do have some existing relationships with cities, but not in the capacity.
I'm not asking for if they told you no. I get it. They tell me no all the time, but you got to put forth. Okay. Thank you very much for your candid. Again, thank you for showing up to my office. I greatly appreciate it.
Okay.
Hi, ma'am. I really like you, and I like all the stuff that you do and all the things that you've done through the time period. I do want to make a statement with what Commissioner Tobias said a little while ago. This is an emotional decision. I know it has a lot of emotional impacts, but our number one job up here is to kind of have the overview of the finances. That's what we're elected to do, is to watch over the dollars. And there's always someone that's not going to like what we do, and then other people are going to love what we do. But it's mainly what we're supposed to be doing is watching over everybody's taxpayer dollars, making sure they're spent the best that they can be spent. Are we perfect at it? No, but from serving with, these new guys are getting to know them, but they seem pretty honest. And Commissioner Tobias has always been very strong on that in the past commission. So picking from a term that they used a long time ago about picking winners and losers, and if you do clawbacks or claw forwards, you can kind of pan that out a little bit, or if it's creating job creations, I don't know. It's a whole different subject. Yours is a whole nother thing. It's subjective a little bit more. I do want to make a statement as far as the funding. You are mostly local, and it's okay. What you do, it's your job. It's what you do. But the county doesn't have unlimited sources of funds. If we did, we'd have everybody mad at us because we'd be raising your taxes so that everybody could have everything that they needed and wanted. And trying to even compare this with people dying on the beach, it's a no-go with me. People's lives will always trump over everything else we do. But that doesn't say what you're doing is not of value. It does have value. I have kids who play in the symphony. We're all into the arts and everything, and we all support it. We go to these things, and they're wonderful things in our community. I do like you and your group, but again, I think that you really need to get other types of sources of income. I think the county's probably half of your income right now with this?
It's right about 40%.
40%? So I don't know where the other commissioners are, but in just fairness, because this is new, I did throw that out 3 months ago that I was getting ready to move those cultural funds. I've been on the TDC board for a while. I don't like the way we do them. I'm not comfortable with how we're trying to do those things, and I haven't been comfortable with them in a long time, and I've been working very hard to moving those funds off into something else. Not that I don't support the arts, I do. We spend a lot of money on it. So what I would be willing to do, and I don't know where the other commissioners are, is I would give you like a 3-month contract to help you get an exit plan together, because I don't want you unemployed all of a sudden without having some way to manage that and do that. But I do believe this has to move somewhere different. And I'm a little disappointed, ma'am, that you didn't maybe get with the cities a little bit. And in all fairness, I always say everything early before I do stuff. I'm not real good at just throwing things out quickly. I'm pretty good at warning people about this. So this is where I am right now. I don't know where the rest of the commission's votes are, but I'm not going to do another year contract as far as my vote. But thank you. Mr. Goodson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question to the board. In the TDC money, 0 to 10%, 0 to 10% could be given to cultural functions. That's what the people voted on. Is that correct, board?
Up to 10%.
Correct, 0 to 10. Is that correct?
Madam Chair? Yeah, I can read the ballot language. It actually says nothing about how the money is to be expended. The initial ballot language, I'll read it to you if you want.
Yeah.
Darn, I'm getting all these glasses here. Referendum to approve county ordinance number 8625, levying and imposing countywide a tourist development tax of 2% for each dollar major fraction of each dollar of the total consideration charged every person who rents, leases, or lets any living quarters or accommodation in any hotel, apartment, hotel, motel, resort, motel, apartment, motel, rooming house, mobile home park, recreational vehicle park, or condominium for a rental term of 6 months or less. Yes, for the tourist development tax. No, against the tourist development tax. So the way it was written is pretty clear. It's how it was collected, not how it was spent. How it was spent is through ordinance. So that's largely a determination of the board. This is what went before the voters and was passed. So,
Okay.
so that would be us.
May I have one more? Thank you, ma'am. If that be said, Commissioner, and I believe you because you read it without glasses, but that's okay. Wouldn't you, the collection of these taxes were not, I assume the people voted with some understanding that they would benefit from them. And Cultural Alliance is a benefit, Lifeguards is a benefit. So I definitely think if we're going to give them 3 months, if that's the way I understand it, but yet we fund so many other things that are surely questionable, we might want to really think about this before we vote. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Goodson. Commissioner Tobias, is this a new light, sir?
Same one, ma'am.
Okay. Any more lights? Commissioner Feltner, are you trying to push a light or? Okay.
There's the light.
Okay.
Thanks for being here today, and I appreciate the meeting that we had in my office. If we're in debate, I just want to say that I don't regret my vote to fund lifeguards. So it simply is what's the next best use of the same money. And so we have a problem in front of us of expanding lifeguard services on the beaches in the unincorporated part of Brevard. That's why we asked the cities to pay in the municipal governments so that we could expand service in the rest of Brevard. So as far as the last vote is concerned, I don't regret that. And let's keep in mind that the property taxpayers in Brevard County pay the lion's share of lifeguard services. So getting to a place where tourism tax pays for lifeguards, because certainly we have an uptick in incidents on our beaches when the tourists are here. So having the tourists contribute to that is, I think, a good thing for the future. Thanks.
New light?
New light.
Did you try to push your light?
Yes, I did.
thought you did try.
It tickles me that we have grilled you about cities, right? You go and see cities.
Yes.
Okay. We put out a request when I first got on board to the cities, 23 CRAs to respond to us on homeless housing or affordable housing. Do you know how many we got?
No, sir.
You don't?
No.
I think we got one. And that was us asking them to help for homeless. So please make every effort to go see them, and please get back to us and let me know out of 23 how many welcomed you in their door. All right? Thank you.
Quick note on that, Commissioner Goodson. Commissioner Tobias and Commissioner Smith kind of shut down all the CRAs in the past a little bit too. So, Commissioner Steele.
Thank you. I just have one last comment before we get into a motion and a debate. I think it would be devastating to do away with BCA and do away with the thought about the wonderful arts program that we have in Brevard County. There is a certain percentage of people that absolutely love the arts. And for us to say, well, BCA, you've only got 3 months and get out, I think sends a very, very bad signal to the United States that are looking at Brevard County to come visit or potential jobs. And I think it's a mistake to do that. I understood your comments, Madam Chairperson, in regards to probation. I was not here. It sounds to me like you probably could have done a little bit better job going to the cities and potentially raising monies, but to just wipe out BCA right now, I think is a major, major mistake. And I would hopefully pray that the commission doesn't do that and that we fund at least to the last year's funding BCA for another year and then see what happens. The Tourist Development Association is the one that gets the numbers in here, so the statistics in regards to Facebook and all those other things, that only matters if, once they get here, then the BCA will be able to supplement what the people can do. I think there's some very valuable messages here, and I just don't want to see this happen today where we give them 3 months or do away with them, period. So you know where my vote is on this.
Commissioner Tobias.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I hadn't thought of the giving them a quarter for a glide path, because I think the year we gave them was a glide path in there. Also, I was unaware of Commissioner Goodson's thought of that. Let me give my perspective and throw a wrench in the thing that I was not prepared to go, but listening to these two, I don't understand the BCA. I honestly don't understand the administrative function of the BCA. I don't know how they bring, by their own metrics, anyone in. Let me talk about the cultural arts. The grants there. There was no question that those organizations brought in folks. We just decided that the money was more important for lifeguards than those. The BCA, by their own admission, does not bring in folks. I think expending money for the BCA is far worse than the actual cultural programs themselves. So your glide path for the BCA, a quarter of the amount they're requesting is 53, just to do the math, would have been 53,040. Very rarely will you ever hear this come out of my mouth, but I'm actually going to make a suggestion that would cost more than 53. It would cost $132,500. Let me tell you how I got to that $132,500. I would be okay with sending a hard line of $132,500 back to the tourist TDC to spend that money on grants to the programs that you heard out there. I'd like them to go through that process again and give them a year glide path to go to the cities and see if they can get some buy-in, because the BCA did not. We gave them that opportunity. They decided to go in a completely different direction. But I think it's unfair to give them a second chance, but not give the second chance to the many organizations out there who quantifiably bring stuff back. So that would be my suggestion. Again, it's whatever, more than $70,000 more than giving the BCA a 3-month extension. So sorry to put that out there. And again, I would not issue that today. I'd want the TD, the subcommittee to have a go at it and with that. But that's just a suggestion out here. I have a hard time furthering any money for the BCA, seeing as they're going to do less work and by their own account and ask for more money. So that's where I am at this. And then when we get done with this, I've got another wrinkle to put in by a bad motion that I made previously, but I wanted to see where that lands.
Commissioner Goodson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Peter, if I'm not mistaken, this year TDC's at $20 million. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. It'll probably be north of 25 million this year.
25, okay. Last year was what, 17?
Last year was 23.3.
Okay. I'm off on my numbers, but anyway, they're definitely up, right?
Yes, sir.
And at the time, there's 3 new hotels being built in Cape Canaveral, Cocoa Beach.
Yes, sir.
Okay. But so undoubtedly, our tourism is really doing well. Would you not say?
Yes, sir. Have 3 straight years of major growth.
Of course, I'm not giving you any credit. Okay, right?
Nobody does.
No, I know that. They kind of whip you. They kind of beat you pretty hard. If we're having these prominent times and we're doing so well, why are we sitting here wasting my time on $212,000 for the Cultural Alliance? Please, I've told you, Evelyn doesn't clap, do not clap. I'm not trying to be rude or obnoxious. I'm just trying to say, anytime we vote up here, John, Commissioner Tobias, we don't always make the right decisions, and we come out later in life or down the road and say, you know, we really wish we'd have changed that. So let's all be respectful of what we're voting for today, and hopefully this will go on and everybody be happy. And then if we put guidelines on them, make them perform for next year. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Steele, did you try to put your light on?
No, I'm finished.
Okay. Okay, quick comment on that, Commissioner Goodson. We just have the, what's the word I'm looking for? We just have the privilege of been doing this for like 7 years with this, so we're kind of used to a little bit more of the trying to work through these numbers. And I totally get it. When I came on, I was like, let's do this, try to figure it out. And so I just know we just got to do some changes. But I don't think in my household I would only say $212,000. That's kind of a lot of funds. And even our commission district offices, we put a lot of caps on ours on funding. So anyways, it's still a large amount of money. And the county did have to help and jump in on this budget, trying to get the safety of the beaches up. And it was money that we had to pull from other things. So again, you know, there was a lot of people that died this summer, and that is a big deal. And I know you know that too. I know that wouldn't be an argument with you either, because you're Kathy. But so Commissioner Tabaya, is that a new light, sir?
No, Madam Chair, sorry.
Okay, Commissioner Goodson, that was your old light still. And Commissioner Feltner, you were trying to push a light. Okay.
I would ask a quick question of Morris, or possibly Peter or Frank. For the future, trying to use TDT to pay for lifeguards, is there a way to segregate buckets where cultural grants are in one bucket and money for lifeguards is in another? Or is it just one pot that's marketing?
Cultural grants right now, or historically, have been funded under a bucket for cultural, which is up to 10% of the first 2 pennies. Marketing is actually contained in several different places, but within that same 2 pennies, it's a separate section, and it's at least 25% for marketing, I guess. So marketing has a floor, cultural has a ceiling. They're sort of naturally separate. You can't fund lifeguard services by relying on the cultural provision, but if those are moved into marketing, which can happen, as discussed in the next item on the agenda, you can use that marketing funding, I believe, to fund lifeguards. So maybe I'm not exactly understanding the question, but I think the way the marketing plan, or the budget plan ordinance is set up, it already sort of naturally divides those. But there's a calculus where the board can move or adjust how much funding goes into each of those things. I'm clearly missing the question. I'm sorry.
No, I just for the future going forward, is there a way that that we can identify the tourism tax dollars just for lifeguards, and then that doesn't affect other programs that are paid for from the tourism tax? Is there potentially a path to that?
Yes, that all falls, I believe, within the discretion of the board and how the board directs those funds to be expended. So, for example, you could expend funds from the marketing fund without moving funds from cultural into marketing. But if you do so, that will impact the programmed marketing campaign.
I understand.
Yes,
okay.
sir.
Thank you.
Commissioner Tabaya, I want to throw this out on your proposal that you threw out there. I would be apt to do that, sir, if we moved it into the marketing, and the marketing aspect of that would be used for cultural projects to do marketing outside the county as we figured out other parameters. But I really don't think it's good to probably put it in the same pot again, because we're doing winners and losers, and we end up in this situation.
Madam Chair, would that be through reimbursement?
Yeah, we would do marketing, do the reimbursement that way. It'd be another way to utilize those funds that way, because everybody's saying they need so much more marketing. If you do the marketing right, more people come in, There's more money in the community, therefore all these organizations end up with more funds.
And I'd be amenable to that, of course, as long as though it went through the proper process again,
Right.
through the TDC, that we gave them a hard cap. I mean, your suggestion was whatever,
We can
25.
discuss that next agenda item, too.
Sure, but then it would be directly spent instead of going through an administrative organization
Okay.
right here?
The only thing I'm struggling with you right now is that we just brought this up a couple of weeks ago. How long is our contract good for still with Brevard Cultural Alliance?
With BCA currently, let's see.
I believe it would be October 1.
October 1? So that's still a little bit of time. But,
Yes.
but I really do love all that you do. But again, a year ago, I had mentioned this, and so in all fairness, there's been a long time coming. So I'm probably not going to support it. If somebody wanted to support a initial amount of money, but if it's all the way to October 1, that gives you a little bit of time to prepare too. So that's where I am right now.
I'm going to move that we approve the BCA budget for the amount that they've requested, $212,000.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Motion fails 2-3, and you have that. Okay, Commissioners, I need some kind of forward path to give the county right now. Commissioner Tobias?
Madam Chair, I move to deny the approval of the BCA 2023-2024 contract and direct staff to allocate the requested $212,160 into the Tourist Development Tax Marketing Fund. That's the motion, Madam Chair.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
A second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Passes 3-2 with Commissioners Goodson and still an objection. All right.
Madam.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Madam Chair, I made a motion last time about the grant funds, and it opened a little bit more of a door, and so I wanted to bring this out, certainly not trying to pull a fast one by anyone. I inadvertently lumped the major event grant program with the cultural grants because it comes out of the same fund. I have never supported these major grant event funds either, and certainly would not intend to do it again, but I did not intend for the board to lump those together. I should have been a little bit more clear in my motion. So if I don't know if there's support by the rest of the board on that one way or another. Again, I won't be supporting it, but I don't want to pull a fast one by anyone. There's about $225,000 apparently that we will get, $75,000 for 3 different events. I just wanted to throw that out there, see where the board is, so we can give staff a little bit more direction as they move forward.
Commissioner Tobias, I actually thought it was all in the same package. I know at the beginning of, at the end of last year, we had a long discussion over one of the air shows. And I just got the eureka at the time that this would be so much better served if it was under marketing. It was direct reimbursement for marketing outside, and then we didn't have all these other things we're trying to look at. Because even if we continued on this, I would want to see everybody's full financial statements, salaries and everything, because there's so much money that the county's paying for these services. So I just considered that part of it, and I was hoping that we would drill something out of marketing as we're discussing all this later for people to get reimbursement for that type of marketing. I don't have any other lights. So do you need to make a motion?
No, Madam Chair, I just wanted to be transparent on that. I support that idea, but again, I wanted to be as transparent as possible when it came to that additional 225. That will impact the motion I'll make on the Lifeguard one coming up, because that will change that dollar figure by $225,000.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Madam Chair.
All right, we're ready to move to item H2. County Manager, are you opening us up on this, sir?
Item H2, Commissioners, was a request, by the board as to how tourist tax revenues could potentially be used by beach lifeguard services. The county attorney did prepare and we've attached to this agenda item an analysis that shows two potential options. I think I will turn it over to him so he can explain to the board both the marketing and the capital grants components of the TDT tax, how they could be used for lifeguard services, should the board so choose to fund that in part.
The board expressed a desire to potentially use tourist development tax revenues to fund lifeguard services and asked whether and how that could be accomplished. Previously, the board had received an opinion based on a 1990 Attorney General opinion that tourist development tax couldn't be used to fund lifeguard services, but that was specific to the beach fund. The beach fund specifically itemizes its purposes and what it can be used for. They all relate to physical aspects of the beach, things of that nature. Clearly can't be used for lifeguards. The Attorney General opinion was limited to that specific use provision within the statute. Attorney General opinion didn't address the use of marketing TDT dollars for lifeguards. And in fact, subsequent to the Attorney General opinion, that statute was amended to make clear that those dollars can be used to fund services, not just marketing, but also services, as long as those services have as one of the primary uses the attraction of tourists or promotion of tourism, and as long as there's some direct connection to tourism. So certainly the board could make findings that lifeguard services have as one of the purposes the attraction or promotion of tourism. There's been a lot of discussion about the negative effects on tourism of drownings and the perception that we have an unsafe beach. But if the board made the proper findings, in my opinion, there's the opportunity to use funds from the marketing fund of the first two pennies for the provision of lifeguard services. That would have to be done in conjunction with the Tourism Development Office actually promoting those lifeguard services as part of the marketing, and Peter has discussed ways to emphasize beaches and safe beaches and lifeguards in some of the marketing and the creative campaign. So the board could certainly get there under the marketing provision for tourism development tax dollars. The second option relates to the capital fund. That would unlock the potential to use some TDT that are currently in capital for things like new lifeguard towers and associated equipment to start a new tower. The board recently placed 2 new towers out there. I don't know that the board has direction to place any more new towers. As you know, you replaced 2 seasonal towers with full-time towers and relocated those seasonals. So those options are all outlined in the opinion there. And I think staff is just looking for direction as to how much, if any, revenues from TDT you would like to see put to use for lifeguards. And if you want to explore that option, then I would bring back an appropriate resolution to the board at your next meeting with findings.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Tobias, I've got some cards. Do you want to speak first? Do you want me to do the cards?
Cards first.
Okay. Mr. Jason Brown. Okay. Miss Martha Pissarro.
Hello, and again, I'm here now to talk as a citizen of Brevard County, to ask in our ordinances how we are making these changes. As I'm reading through, I'm looking at our projected budgets for this year and next year. I've got a chart of that, but I'm also looking at the process that must be followed in order to change any of these ordinances. And I must ask if we have duly followed those. And I'm looking at item G, the above stated plan, which delineates the uses of the tax collection. Item G is saying the above stated plan may not be substantially amended except by ordinance enacted by an affirmative vote of a majority plus one additional member of the board. The council shall, from time to time, make recommendations to the board for the effective operation and all the other special projects that are aligned therein. I don't believe that we followed the correct procedure for making these changes of the reallocation of the funds, and I would question how that was done and would like to see the proper methods followed. Thank you.
Mr. Aaron Collins. And then Derek Gores.
Good morning. My name is Aaron Collins, a resident of Cocoa, member of the Tourist Development Council Cultural Committee, and I also have the great fortune being a part of several organizations who have greatly benefited from funding over the last decade from the Cultural Support Grant Program and its various iterations. But one of the most purposeful things in my life is standing here today speaking on behalf of the incredible arts organizations here in our community. First, I want to take a moment, thank all of you, and for taking your valuable time, speak privately with me this past week and sharing your vision and thoughts. It's sincerely appreciated. Serving on the TDC Cultural Committee has been a great pleasure. Our hardworking and dedicated committee spent many meetings and hours crafting a grant application, focusing solely on heads and beds in ROI to satisfy the directives set forth by you and the TDC. We did this knowing that many of the smaller arts organizations who would make our community better and enhance the quality of life would unfortunately be left by the wayside. The grant application went through many meticulous revisions over many months. In a few short minutes, you voted unanimously to take away all of the money that Brevard taxpayers voted on to promote our cultural activities. The arts are a major engine of economic development and tourism in our county, generating $131 million and contributed almost $65 million in our local GDP in the past year. Business leaders, developers, tourism officials, and community planners have joined with parents, educators, and civic leaders to promote public policies that strengthen the arts. They do so because they recognize the benefits that accrue to communities when the local government helps foster a robust arts sector. We understand that you have to make difficult decisions, and I don't think anyone would disagree that giving lifeguards funding is crucial. In closing, I have 4 questions for you. How can we continue this program with your guidance?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate all of you.
Mr. Derek Gores. And then I have Marquette.
Hi there, I'm Derek Gores. I'm an artist and Eau Gallie Arts District board member and maybe a community builder. Let's see, you guys have a tough job. Yeah, you have to keep society ticking along with the layers that are important. I believe that culture must be one of those things that is included. I know you're maintaining roads and all the things, but culture has to be on that list. I want to add a comment to the conversation that Kathy Angeron was having with Mr. Tobiah here. That the Cultural Symposium absolutely helps drive tourism. Folks behind me, raise your hand if you learned something at that symposium that drove. Well, okay.
Thank you, but
I'll raise my hand then.
Okay.
I myself, in the last year, have had 3 workshops of my art that were sold out, and a third of the people who came to it were from out of state, some from out of country, to come take art lessons, etc. I want to say that your decision last week was, not only was it wrong, boy, the Greeks and Romans looking at this, they would be shocked from eras ago, but also it was lazy. I've learned that you guys have more tools that you're not using. If you have a critique of certain events that happen in the county, you have what are called time, place, and manner restrictions, where you can, this has been solved before. You don't have to just use a blunt instrument. And let's say you don't care about art. Let's say you don't have heart and soul. Let's say it comes down to money for you. Remember the phrase, attracting and retaining the young tech talent that's so key to driving our economy here? Culture is what attracts and retains that young tech talent. When we have people who might move here from New York, California, etc., culture is the only answer to that. Please reconsider. We've got to do much better.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mark Marquette and Don Matheson.
Honorable Commissioners, my name is Mark Marquette, and I'm the Community Liaison for the American Space Museum. We have our board president and another board member in attendance here. I'm also the president of 21 institutions that are nonprofits that make up the museums of Brevard, the mob. The consequences of your actions reverberate throughout our mob, as 9 of our mobsters are taking a hit financially from this commission, most of that money needed for advertising. As a legal nonprofit, the mob offers 21 unique cultural attractions at Brevard County, from the lighthouse to the 8 homes of the most influential people who've ever lived in Brevard County. And this commission has turned their backs on the mob. Did you know that every January in downtown Titusville, the American Space Museum honors the 17 astronauts who died in NASA's space tragedies of Apollo 1, Challenger, and Columbia? Thanks to this commission, the museum has no advertising budget for that event or any of our events this year to bring heads in hotel beds, and we have several international visitors every day in our humble museum. That's turning your back on the memory of America's heroes. We call our American space workers national treasures. They were your grandparents, your fathers, mothers, brothers, even you yourself. Brevard County put America on the moon. And Brevard County is again a mecca for the space workers of new companies wanting to go to the moon. The influence of the Artemis generation of young engineers and workers are not only seeking entertainment at our beaches and restaurants, but they also desire cultural stimulation in the arts. And that's what the mob has to offer. I wish we could change your mind, but that's not how politics works. So I say, as president, meet the mob.
Thank you, sir. Right, I have Miss Dawn Matheson. Ma'am, do you live in California?
I live here too.
Okay, I just want to mention it said California on there.
John, just to be transparent, I would really like to know
Ma'am, you have to address the chair.
Okay,
Thank
the
you.
chair, Rita. I would just like to know how much, as someone who burst into flames after about 15 minutes on the beach, I would just like to know how much every one of those dollars of tourism going to the lifeguards that brings in. I would like to know what your metrics are in that, because I would be really interested, because I found a lot of scholarly papers on how the art affects real estate value and how arts brings in tourism. But I did not do the research on how much money lifeguards actually give a return on a society. And so though I believe, lifeguarding's great, lifeguarding's good, I, as a person, do not get to benefit from the lifeguarding because I can't spend any kind of time on the beach. So I would really love to hear that before you guys take that grand amount of $212,000 from the $23 million and spend it on lifeguards.
Thank you. Miss Sandra Sullivan?
Good morning, Sandra Sullivan, South Patrick Shores. So in May, the discussion was about getting some funding from the cities because the county was funding lifeguards out of the general fund. And a legal opinion, I read the minutes last night, they're not available on Legistar, interestingly. You can't search Legistar for about 50% of the minutes. You have to go to the clerk of court site because you guys, really aren't prioritized for transparency, apparently. But I also want to say that you start doing Google searches on lifeguards, on having lifeguards at a TDC. And I sent you an email last night with some links to some of those sites. In 2013, there was some drownings in another county, and they wanted to have lifeguards paid at a TDT, and they couldn't. So one of the state reps did a bill that failed to try to change that. So I would suggest you're going to be met with some legal issues. And in the May meeting, the attorney stated you could use it for replacing and fixing the towers, but not for the services. So it's kind of interesting that it's changed. I also want to say that I find it interesting that Cocoa Beach contract is up in September next month, and that the conversation in the May meeting was, well, what happens if the cities don't want to pay their share? So let's be honest here. What this is about is the city pushing back on you, going, we don't want to pay that. And I'm just going to say that most of the money, 2.5 million it was, but now it'd be closer to 3 million because of in the Atlantic. Most of this money is going to cities who are charging for parking at and even beaches that the county has given to the cities to do away with the liability.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan. Commissioner Tobias, your light's on, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd first of all like to thank the County Attorney's Office for providing the memo and the legal interpretation. There were a couple layers, and there had been some changes in statutes. This was quite a bit of work that had to be done. I do have a few issues when it comes to the cost share of cities, the attachment at the end of it, that I certainly would like to address and plan to address. In fact, I have an agenda item at our next meeting, our budget meeting, dealing with the city cost share associated with those beaches, specifically the ones that do charge for parking. So I want to be very clear. The motion I'm about to make has nothing to do with that cost share. That is something that I certainly, the board took a pretty hard line on, and I hope we stay that way, but we'll find out again at the next meeting when I bring it up. So the motion I have here, and again, these numbers are a little bit changed because of the large, that 225,000, so that's in it, and that's why you probably see a different number than what was presented in the findings from the county attorney's office. So I move to direct staff to use $934,654 in tourist development tax revenue for the marketing fund for countywide beach lifeguard services. Direct the tourism development office to include the promotion of beach lifeguard services as part of the marketing plan for the next fiscal year. And 3, direct county attorney and staff to prepare a resolution setting forth appropriate findings for the board's consideration at the September 5th, 2023 Brevard County Board of County Commissioners meeting. That's the motion, and that's what was asked in the agenda report, Madam Chair.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. I have no other lights, so all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes 4-1 with Commissioner Goodson in objection. All right, we are going to take a 5-minute break, and then we're going to come back and come into the new business.
How much?
Go that way? Okay. And the noise ordinance, I think, started with Commissioner Goodson and Commissioner Feltner. How do we open this up, Frank? Do you want to open it, or shall I let
I
the
think,
Commissioner jump in?
Commissioner Goodson asked that I introduce that, Madam Chair, if
Wonderful.
that's okay with you. All right, the board had given direction to make some revisions to our noise ordinance, which hadn't been substantially amended for over 20 years. The primary purpose of the amendments was, one, we had reports from the sheriff's office that when they tried to enforce the noise ordinance as a misdemeanor ordinance violation, state attorney was reluctant to bring cases under the existing ordinance because it had what the state attorney's office deemed to be a subjective standard, a standard that says loud and raucous noises are prohibited. And loud and raucous can be in the eye, or in this case, the ear of the beholder. So that loud and raucous standard has been replaced with something called a plainly audible standard, which is a more objective measurement. It's a question of whether a person of normal hearing can hear a noise at a certain distance from the property line from which the noise is emanating. Met with state attorney's office and sheriff's office. They all say that that's enforceable. The state has gone to that under Chapter 316, which regulates motor vehicles. They have a plainly audible standard that the courts have upheld. Most jurisdictions that have updated their noise ordinances in the last decade have moved to a plainly audible standard for their non-noise meter enforcement. On the noise meter and technical side, our ordinance has long measured noises on what's known as the A-weighted decibel scale. It has thresholds in it based on time of day and the use of the property from which the noise is generated, maximum noise levels which cannot be exceeded. My direction here was to try to capture some sounds that the A-weighted decibel scale isn't really good at. So things like bass sounds, more vibratory types of noises, the lower sound range. So we added the use of a C-weighted decibel scale, which is better at capturing those noises. And then another complaint that the sheriff's office articulated and code officers articulated was that our old ordinance, just in large part because of the age of the ordinance, called out some antiquated technical standards and requirements for the devices so that we weren't able to obtain sound meters that checked all of those boxes. We had to constantly send our existing ones in for repair. The sheriff's office only has one. They're very expensive to obtain. It included things like a measurement cycle that required the sound to be measured over an average of a 15-minute period. We've reduced that to a 30-second period, which is consistent with a lot of ordinances out there, and updated the technical requirements so that the meters that will be used will still be reliable, they'll still be calibrated, but they're going to be more affordable, more readily available. And those are the major changes in it. Happy to discuss any specific questions.
Commissioner Tobias?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've passed out two suggested changes to the ordinance. I've run these both by the county attorney's office. I appreciate all the work. This was a moving target as there were a couple iterations. So I want to go over those real quickly. One is not as substantive as the other. So the first one adds an additional whereas clause. It's owners of real property in Brevard County have basic rights, presumed innocent. Just a due process section again. That's in the whereas clause. The second one is a little more substantive in nature, and there, for a couple reasons, I was interested in going back to the initial drafting of this. That's where the warnings were 2 instead of 1. The city of Sanford, for example, is similar to that. However, some citizens in my portion of the district, the South Beaches, brought some concerns with the language. I got an email yesterday, and the county attorney immediately was able to jump on that and add it to this one that I think will ameliorate those. Ironically enough, and those citizens are well aware of it, because the legislature saw it as the South Beach area as an area of state critical concern. As you put here, they will be exempt from this until the state makes a decision to go in a different direction. So that language, and you have the strike-through language there, changes it from 1 warning to 2 warnings. However, their concern was, since there were 2 different organizations that will be providing warnings, the Brevard County Sheriff's Office as well as code enforcement, they weren't sure how they would be working together. This would aggregate those. So if one Brevard County Sheriff's Office issued a warning and the Brevard County the code enforcement issued a warning, that would be counted as 2. This one where it says by the underlined by any enforcement officer, according to the county attorney, this makes sure that count is aggregated. So that is the suggested change from number 2, going back to the initial language, mirroring that as Sanford, as well as taking care of the concern of some residents in my district. So those are my suggested changes. With those changes, it will have my support. I want to thank Commissioner Goodson for bringing this up, and the county attorney for doing work to make sure this happens, as well as the citizens in my district who were very vocal concerning this and wanted to make sure they lived in a little more harmony than what they currently do.
Commissioners, anybody else? Commissioner Feltner?
I didn't get a chance to push the light. Okay. First of all, I appreciate Commissioner Goodson also for bringing this up. It's I think it's time that we catch up ordinance to the current situation that we're dealing with. So, correct me if I have this wrong, Morris. The sheriff's office and our code enforcement officers are going to be the ones that could enforce this. Now, if Brevard County Sheriff doesn't want to cite someone, they can write up an affidavit, give it to our code enforcement, and then the county can take it from there. Is that right?
That's correct.
So, would the deputy then come to a code enforcement hearing to speak on the issue when the homeowner or the property owner comes to, to challenge that?
The deputy might come to the special magistrate hearing. However, special magistrate hearings aren't bound by the strict rules of evidence, so they can take a sworn affidavit. The special magistrate can receive that, so the deputy wouldn't necessarily have to appear.
Okay.
For acceptance, Madam Chair?
Do you want to make with Commissioner Tobias 2 adjustments?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm listing his 2 adjustments.
All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Goodson.
I'll second.
I think Commissioner Feltner beat you.
That's fine.
Commissioner Feltner's second. Oh, I do have cards, good thing. Oh, thanks. Miss Elaine Taylor.
Sorry. Yeah. Sorry.
I'm sorry, I should have moved this up
You
to the
all have
beginning.
emails from me anyway earlier. I have to do it quickly. My name is Elaine Taylor. I've lived in Oceanside Village for 21 years and truly love where I live. I'm asking you to amend our county noise ordinance so that residents like me will not have to take their HOAs and communities to court just to live peacefully in the sanctity of their own homes. 2 years ago, our board, without a vote of the community, repurposed one of the tennis courts into 2 pickleball courts right across the street from my house. All I could hear inside the house is pop, 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 screaming, swearing, whether shots were good or bad. I emailed the board asking them to abate this pickleball court noise to no avail. My blood pressure has risen even with medication, can you tell? And I don't know what a good night's sleep is anymore. I can no longer open my doors or windows in the morning or evening to let in the fresh air. After failed mediation with the 2022 board, eventually I was offered and signed a settlement agreement to eliminate pickleball in the village. The result? A dead squirrel in the bush closest to my front door, pickleballers honking their horns by my house, playing pickleball on the remaining tennis court to harass me, shaming me on social media, telling me to move or to go into a nursing home, combined with foul language and discourteous language from the board president. Residents are afraid to complain, so I'm the only one who dared to complain about pickleball. That is my saga. Bottom line, no one should have to go through what I am experiencing. If the noise ordinance could be amended to properly reflect the actual noise issues caused by sport activity that is so loud that it affects your sanity, your health, and your welfare, and is therefore a nuisance, then many potential lawsuits can be provided. I am suing for breach of contract, and I'm getting nowhere in our courts even. This is crazy. At any rate, I did research on the EPA, the federal EPA website, and came across the name Dr. Clifford Bragdon, who's an expert in noise control. He lives right here in Melbourne. And I brought his resume and stuff. I'm meeting with him because he's helping me with my court case.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. I'm sorry you're going through all that.
No one
So
should.
sorry.
Again, it's not just me, it's anybody that this is going to happen to.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Ms. Cheryl Hoffman? Hi.
My name is Cheryl Hoffman. First, I wanted to thank Commissioner Goodson Morris and particularly Commissioner Tabaya for listening to me and taking into account the problems we were having, and then more importantly for all of you joining in to address them. The noise ordinance is spectacular, and I thank you for that. I had a couple questions about it, but I'm happy to meet later to ask them. They're more procedural because our group is probably going to come back to me for guidance and how to begin addressing this situation. If possible, there are 2 points on here on page 17 that mentions a violation of a repeat violation. Curious if that's on the property or on the person making the noise.
That's in this section that specifically relates to code enforcement, and that's based on the property.
Perfect. So, for instance, then, if a renter is warned, that goes against the property, if I'm understanding it correctly.
The way it would work, if the board adopts it as as moved, if there are 2 warnings against a renter of a property, let's say it's a vacation rental, 2 warnings and/or violations issued against a renter of a property, county would send that to the property owner, notices of that, and then code enforcement could then proceed against the property owner with a notice of violation.
Perfect, that's how I understood it. And then right below that, on 17 also, if they're deemed in compliance until it's been free of noise for 30 days, what happens if they're not? And what happens during that 30 days?
Madam Chair, would you? So the way the code enforcement special magistrate works is when he finds a violation, he gives a time period to cure the violation. In the case of a noise ordinance violation, because noise is different than, it's not like mowing your grass where you can see that it's done within a time period. So the way this would work is that the property is not deemed to be in compliance until it's been violation-free for a period of 30 days after the order.
Okay, and then if they're not in compliance, what does that mean to the property owner? Anything? They are allowed to continue to rent or do whatever? It's just like a...
That would be the magistrates.
Okay, so then it goes in front.
Fine determined by the magistrate, which can be a lien on the property.
Okay, I understand. So at that point, it sits with the magistrate.
Thank you.
All right, thank you guys very much.
Thank you so
Greatly
much.
appreciate it.
All right, I have a motion on the table and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Moving on to item I2.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Item I2 is permission from the board to apply for a grant with the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. The grant is specific to a continuation of a study related to the development of a regional wastewater treatment plant in the Port St. John area that would serve not only the Port St. John, but also possibly the Cape Canaveral NASA complex.
Move to approve, Madam Chairperson.
Have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Goodson. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Commissioner Tobias, that's an old light, correct?
It's an old light, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Item I3.
I3, Madam Chair, is again seeking permission for Brevard County Utility Services to apply for grants to the FDEP. We are seeking $2.5 million from the FDEP, with us matching $2.5 million. The projects to be submitted would be the replacement of 2 lift stations and the continuation of sewer manhole lining in the Merritt Island area.
Motion, Madam Chair, for approval.
Motion by Commissioner Goodson, second by Commissioner Steele. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. We're moving into board reports. County Manager,
I have no report.
County Attorney.
Thank you. Yes, I would like to, in the pending litigation between the county and Cocoa Beach Hotel Motel regarding the Driftwood project, I would like to ask the board for permission to schedule an executive attorney-client session for your September 5 meeting. That's a 5:30 meeting, the budget hearing. If we could schedule that attorney-client session for 4:30 p.m.
Is everybody good?
What's the date?
September 5.
Madam Chairperson, motion to approve.
Okay, I have a motion to approve the meeting.
Second.
And a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that all, County Attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Goodson?
None, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Feltner?
A couple of things. First of all, when talking about the noise ordinance, I think something that we need to maybe contemplate is, because I believe most of the problems that we have are at night, the vast majority. I think that's where most of the complaints come from. And so I think at some point we need to think about a nighttime code enforcement. A couple of folks, only responding, not necessarily driving around looking for noise, but, responding and can go out, because I know we've had some issues where code enforcement folks have been scheduled, to come in the evening just so they can check a property and go out there with meters and all those sorts of things. So I think that's just something to ponder. My daughter is going to be induced on Thursday.
How exciting.
It's a little early, so she's been having some trouble, and so she says she's really ready to go, and so anyways, keep her in your thoughts that she gets through that. I appreciate it.
Praying for a safe birth. Grandpa? Commissioner Steele?
Steele? It's me?
Yes, you.
I had a really good meeting with Tad and Brian in regards to short-term rentals, and we had a major presentation from a software company that really can provide some very, very exciting help for us. And I would like to ask staff to prepare a report on the county's enforcement of unpermitted resort dwellings. The report should identify opportunities for more effective enforcement, including but not limited to proactive enforcement, potential software improvements, special magistrate fine structures. Also, the report should discuss the due process challenges and potential fiscal opportunities and impacts associated with the enforcement of resort dwellings. Basically, what we'd be doing is taking a proactive approach on short-term rentals, and I think it would be helpful, and we have not had a chance to talk to our wonderful property appraiser, but potentially being able to find some of the people that are actually renting and not and clearing homestead exemptions when the property's been rented for longer than 6 months. So that might be a help to you. Also with the tax collector, gets some monies from some of the Airbnb companies, but this software actually shows every time it's been rented and how much it's been rented for. So it really is exciting software. And I think that if the board would approve asking Tad to move forward with giving us a report, I'd appreciate it.
That's interesting.
Oh, it's exciting.
You want to say something? Sorry.
Can I just ask a question? Are there places where this is in place
Yes.
today that we could look at?
Yes,
And-
yes, that was one of
Okay.
Tad's questions. Cocoa Beach has one, several counties have one, and a couple of cities already in the state of Florida. Or we can arrange for a presentation to each commissioner individually. I think you'd be surprised.
I think one of the dilemma, I'll say it again because I think I've said it at some other meetings, is, the tax collector who is collecting the short-term rental tax, when it's remitted to the county from Airbnb, VRBO, Expedia, these things, it basically comes as one check. It's not attached to a tax account number. And that's very interesting. Because if it was, well, that would be very quick, wouldn't it? We could see by tax account number who's, at least they're remitting the short-term rental tax, even if they're not supposed to be, doing short-term rental sales. But that's not available today. So I think that's one of the big dilemmas.
It would be
So
available underneath this program, and it can tie in right into our computer system and identify it by tax number.
Yeah,
A tax
okay.
account number.
Well, I'm certainly interested as well, so I'll look forward to learning more about that.
Cool. I have no.
I think we need a motion.
Oh, we need a
to
motion?
approve, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and first of all, I want to thank Commissioner Steele for bringing that up. This would, I imagine, require a fair amount of time on staff, and bringing that to the board's attention is certainly much appreciated. I know I gave Commissioner Pritchett a hard time for that, the county attorney, years ago, but now I see the wisdom. A couple quick questions before I go ahead and vote on this. Reactive to proactive, while it sounds good, help me here. Does code enforcement, are you aware of code enforcement doing proactive enforcement on anything else, or would this be a complete paradigm shift of how code enforcement is done?
No, and we haven't gotten to really what that would be. What we were really trying to do is accomplish when we had a code enforcement violation, to be able to pull up everything in the neighborhood. And then if there were people that were in the neighborhood that were doing things that would potentially be a violation, we might send out a letter to them saying, hey, we see that you're doing short-term rentals. You need to come in compliance, and here's the things that you need to do. So I think when you see the presentation, you'll be very surprised.
Okay, so this is new, this proactive approach in all of code, when there is a report, I mean, I'd certainly like to see how this doesn't spread to, I don't know, our lawns being too long. I'm afraid that we're going to all of a sudden get,
This
if we
is
take a.
short-term rentals only. This is what we're trying to assess.
Okay, number two, I did not have the benefit of meeting with that software company that provides those services. I imagine there's a cost associated, or do they take a contingency fee?
No, there's a cost, and we're looking for the presentation on what
So,
the cost would be.
I imagine we have a policy, I'm sure you're aware of, I think it's BCC 21, which requires a competitive bid. So are you aware of other, software companies that may provide a similar service?
No, but there may be some.
Okay, so just, something that may come into play. And I have no idea, based on those parameters, the amount of time that would go into this. Did you happen to get a idea how much staff time would be dedicated to this?
No, that was one of the reasons why I wanted to get the study done, so that we could figure all those things out.
No, I'm sorry, the study itself, how much staff time would be dedicated, to this? Do we have an idea? Is Tad?
Tad's not here. I do not have an idea, but when they left the meeting, they were very excited about the proposal and wanted to get it before the commission to get it approved, so that they can determine all of the unknowns that you're asking.
Are we getting Billy?
Pardon me?
We're getting Billy. He's coming up.
Billy's coming up. Uh-oh.
Mr. Billy Prasad, when you worked for me, you never once got excited. So I'm very disappointed now that you work for the board, you get excited. Very disappointing here. How long do you think this study will, how much staff time will be dedicated to this?
I mean, based on my understanding of what's being asked, probably 8 hours or so.
Okay. Yep. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. You'll have my support for it. I just wanted to know how long prior to. Thank you.
Oh, and Billy smiles more now, too.
I would have taken a little more time than 8 hours, but.
Okay, do we have a consensus, or do you want to vote on it?
No, I would like a vote.
Okay.
Tad's very right middle lane, you know, he doesn't want to get out of the lane, so.
All right, so I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Goodson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. I have no report today, so I'm going to move to Commissioner Tabaya, who will move into his vice chair position.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Today is National Eat a Peach Day.
Yum.
So that is very, very creepy up there. If you look what AI generated, when you put in National Eat a Peach, it looks like a peach is eating itself. Be a little bit skeptical of AI. So let's go to Useless Florida Fact Day. Key West has more bars per capita than any other place in the country. That one is a shout out to Mr. Denninghoff for his next vacation. Next, this day in Florida history. On this day in 1992, Hurricane Andrew became a Category 5 hurricane, and soon after made landfall in South Florida, setting wind speed records of 175 miles per hour. So be mindful, these things happen. And finally, and most importantly, county employee recognition. Now they're just playing games with me here, and Central Services sent me an entire team. And so I will go over Mary Bowers, Sherry Collart, Heather Riley, Erica Curlew, Angela Boss, Melissa Pope, James Norris, and Tremisha Flood. They are Brevard County Purchasing Services staff. Purchasing Services has been honored with the Florida Association of Public Procurement Officers, the very prestigious FAPPO Award of Excellence in Public Procurement for 2023. This award recognizes organizational excellence in procurement and acknowledges agencies that meet or exceed benchmarks of best practices in the procurement profession. This Excellent in Public Procurement Award program, that's an alliteration there. Public Procurement Program measure innovation, professionalism, e-procurement, productivity, and leadership attributes of the procurement function. Brevard County Purchasing Services has truly distinguished itself within the state. This award is a testament to their hard work and dedication. Brevard County is one of only 24 agencies to receive this prestigious award. This is an accomplishment to cherish, and we congratulate them on their well-deserved award. Thank you very much. I'd be more than willing to read teams, but individuals, we get fun facts, so just sending that out to the department chairs. Thank you for your hard work. And with that, we will go to public comment. We'll start with Mr. David, I'm not going to be his last name. This is with BCSO. I'm sorry, I can't read your last name, David.
Avila.
Avila.
David Avila, 275 North Burnett Road, Cocoa, Florida.
Yes, sir.
So I'm here today on pretty much the same issue that occurred on 5/5/2023 and a number of issues that occurred previous to that, leading from 2009, where Brevard County Sheriff's Officer, badge number 0042, has responded. And it turns out it's not just coincidence, because it's numerous times. Whenever he responds, I end up with a plethora of more incidents to occur, such as on 5/5/2023, after getting a trespass warning regarding the horn beeping, the horn beeping came around in procession like a parade. So it's my opinion, and facts that can be proven once the police records, which I'm still waiting on, can be determined, that this is going on with the same particular officer 0042, and I would like him to be restationed away from the West Precinct. I have since reached out to the commander of the precinct, who, that was not a very polite conversation, also recorded. I've reached out to staff services, internal affairs, everything that can be reached through publicly accessible means, to no avail. So I'm here to ask that you guys find resolution in the way that have this officer who has been, I can't prove it beyond a reasonable doubt without the records, but I think once we see them, it will be pretty clear that this officer is, let's say, corrupt, to say it the easiest way. But I am looking into litigation regarding this matter, and I want this officer off my beat, so I don't have to worry about going outside, because each and every time this officer is dealing with me, the issues, they progress. Let's say Jackson Kia, there's another opportunity there to look into that matter, and it's just, it's ongoing. It doesn't stop since 2009, and it's the same officer. So I think, we need to look into this. That's all I got.
Time and comment. Sandra Sullivan.
Okay.
Good morning, Sandra Sullivan. So at the last commission meeting 2 weeks ago, a vote was taken, and it was I've never seen anything like it in the 5 years, to have a room full of people and to take a vote intentionally before hearing the people. I was appalled. I want to talk about that issue to do with the incorporation of Merritt Island. And why would this commission, why would you vote to accept a study that did not meet state statutes, but state that it did? In a meeting following with our state representative, Soroy, he indicated it did not. In my conversation in meeting with Commissioner Feltner, it did not. So this, in 1998, this is a map from the North Merritt Island Special District, governed by state statute. As you see, the federal lands are part of that jurisdiction. In 2015, it was a very exciting project with Blue Origin. And in there, as you'll see here, it said the grant money would come from North Brevard Economic Development Zone and generated by new commercial and residential construction by property tax revenue. That's not correct, because it's actually federal lands. It doesn't generate that. But more importantly, according to state statute, they cannot, they are bound by their boundary, which was District 1. Commissioner Pritchett was on the city council when that North Merritt Island Special District, the North Brevard Special District was created in 2011. And so the following year in 2016, this map, which is a boundary of North Merritt Island, was added to NBEDS, as you call the North Brevard Special District. This is not legal.
Thank you for your time. And last but not least, the Honorable Dana Blickley. And before you get up here, a moment of personal privilege. Your employees certainly are part of the Brevard County family. I think an email was sent. If you would like any of your employees recognized up here, we would be more than willing to treat you guys the same way. Ours, as many of your, if not all your employees, are hardworking folks and certainly deserve that recognition. I just wanted to throw that out there if you're so inclined.
We certainly appreciate that. Actually, I'm here to pay you a compliment today. I know that it's very, very difficult to be up there. I can imagine there are positives and negatives on almost every vote that you make. So I think that what's most important is that we always treat our citizens with professionalism and courtesy, because for a lot of our folks, it's very difficult and intimidating to get up here on this dais. So I appreciate that. So things I wanted to say to you today is commend the county manager and you guys for your ELI program. That's something that we take part in as a constitutional office. So we send a lot of our folks, our emerging leaders or leaders that we currently have in our office that are sharpening their skill set. And we work a lot with your staff informally and formally throughout the year, but we don't really get to know them personally or professionally or find out about their relationships like we do when we attend the ELI program. So we get to know them a little better, what makes them tick, and we just appreciate that. So thank you.
Well, thank you. And this is one of the things I tried to get away from when I first got on here, and Frank convinced me that this was a great program, and then he initially signed up everyone in my office for it who move on to bigger and better things. So certainly I was very wrong on that one to begin with, and it's great that it's benefiting the constitutional offices as well.
Oh, it certainly is.
So, well, thank you for your input.
Can I ask a quick question since we're on
Frank.
this?
Sure.
Maybe Frank has it, or I see Jerry back there. How many each year graduates from ELI since you started that?
We have between 26 and 32 graduate each program. I think we're on ELI 19. We started in 2006. We have well over 300 plus people that are there in various charter offices. From various charter offices, they've the property appraiser, tax collector, the sheriff, they've all participated in for a number of years, as has the school board. Eastern Florida State College, we even have people come down from Daytona, so we greatly appreciate your participation. I can even say from years ago, someone who didn't always have the greatest things to say about Brevard County Board of County Commissioner employees. Scott Ellis participated, had his employees as well in the clerk's office, and send numerous employees over the years to that program. And Rachel Sadoff, as the clerk, is continuing that. So we greatly appreciate you guys participating, and I do think it Dana mentioned the development of the relationships between the staff is one of the greatest networking opportunities that we hear from people who are in the program. And I can tell you that there is no director who works for the board that doesn't go through it. We make everyone go through it.
Thank you, Frank. You won. You beat me. You were right. He's rubbing it in here.
I was going to take the opportunity. So does that answer your question, sir?
We set this up. Yeah.
No, I didn't.
Frank is correct on that, and while you know folks professional and you work with them, you have communication with them out through the year, it's much more enlightening when you spend some time with them in the ELI program and you find out more about their relationships. So very positive program.
Well, thank you so much for partnering with us, and if I see no more comments, I'll call the meeting closed at 11:42 a.m.
The opinions expressed by any member of the public during any period of public comment do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, or the program sponsor, and are solely those of the presenter. The Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, and the program sponsor hereby expressly disclaim any and all responsibility or liability for any defamatory or slanderous statements expressed by any member of the public during any such period.